I was 27 when I bought my first house. It was nothing special. A 2-bedroom colonial in the Jefferson-Chalmers neighborhood of Detroit, maybe 3 blocks from the canal. The area had seen better days, but the house had good bones, as the realtor said, and it was cheap enough for a guy working night shifts at a freight terminal. I moved in during October. The trees lining Ashland Street had already started shedding, and every gust of wind carried leaves in twisting, violent bursts across the cracked sidewalks. The place had sat vacant for almost 2 years, but there was no vandalism, no major damage, just a smell like wet wood and closed-off air that hadn't moved in a long time. The house had a basement. That was one of the reasons I bought it. My dad always said a good Michigan home had to have a dry, square basement, and this one did. Mostly. The stairs were old pine, creaky but solid, and the ceiling low enough that I had to duck near the support beams. The furnace was ancient, cast iron with red flaking paint, and a whine that started up every time it kicked on. There was a laundry sink, a cracked concrete floor, and a single swinging bulb that barely lit anything past its own chain. There was also a door. It was built into the foundation wall, behind the furnace. I didn't even notice it the first time I inspected the place. It was completely blocked by the unit and the tangle of ductwork above it. But during my second week in the house, I decided to snake in behind the furnace to sweep up what looked like a nest of mice droppings. That's when I saw it. The door was no more than 5 feet high. Steel. Bolted shut with a rusted latch and 2 old padlocks, both red with corrosion. It was covered in dust and cobwebs, and at first I figured it was just an access panel or maybe a bricked-off coal chute from decades back. Still, something about it felt off. Not just old, wrong. I left it alone. For a while. But that door itched at me. Every time I went down to switch laundry or check the fuse box, I found my eyes drifting to it. I'd catch myself listening, like I was expecting something. I wasn't the superstitious type, but I didn't like how I felt around it. The hairs on my neck would lift, and the air would get heavy, like the pressure dropped the moment I walked near it. One afternoon, maybe a month after moving in, I decided to open it. I didn't plan to, I didn't have a reason to, but I did it anyway. I brought down a hammer, a chisel, and a pair of bolt cutters I borrowed from work. The first lock snapped easily. The second took longer, groaning and spitting rust before it gave way. I pried the latch up and pulled the door open. It didn't lead anywhere obvious. There were no stairs, no lights, just a narrow stone corridor that curved sharply out of view after maybe 15 feet. I got the sense it was original to the house, maybe older. The walls were made of the same rough, uneven stone as the foundation, but darker, slick with moisture. The air coming out was cold, bitterly so. Not just chilly, but unnatural. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped in. The floor was damp earth, compacted and uneven. The ceiling was so low I had to crouch. As I moved forward, the beam of my flashlight caught the edges of objects embedded into the walls. Hooks, chains, something like a pulley system or a lift, half buried in the rock. The corridor curved again, tighter this time, and then opened into a low rectangular chamber. I froze at the threshold. The room was maybe 12 feet wide and lined with shelves, but they weren't for tools, or jars, or anything that belonged in a basement. They were covered in bones. Some were small, animal I assumed, but others weren't. Long femurs, wide hips, curved ribs, human shapes. I backed up, stunned, and the beam of my flashlight landed on something in the center of the room. A wooden chair. Not just a chair, a restraint. Heavy and rotting, but unmistakably designed to hold someone down. The arms had leather straps, the legs too. The wood was blackened at the edges, not by time, but by burn marks. Scorching. I don't know how long I stood there. Something moved. A scraping sound not far, just behind the shelves. I turned the flashlight, but the beam flickered, and for a second I saw nothing. Then it came back, and I saw what I wish I never had. A figure, not fully visible, just a sliver between shadows, bent, pale, slick with something thick and dark. It didn't walk. It jerked forward like it was dragged by invisible strings. Its face was long, stretched. Its eyes, empty holes that seemed to pull in light rather than reflect it. I turned and ran. My shoulder slammed into the stone wall. I slipped on the wet ground and caught myself on the edge of the corridor. Behind me, I heard the shelves crash over, bones scattering. Something hit the wall with a heavy thud, and then came the sound of fast, clawing movement, like nails on concrete. I sprinted back into the main basement and pulled the door shut behind me. I didn't lock it. I couldn't. I just pressed all my weight against it, heart hammering so hard I thought it would break my ribs. Then I heard the furnace come on. It screeched, high-pitched, unnatural, and then blew out, filling the room with hot, dry air that smelled of burning cloth and old rot. The light bulb overhead burst with a sharp pop, throwing everything into darkness. That's when the noises started. Knocking. Not from the door, but from inside the walls. Slow, deliberate, travelling upward. It passed the basement and into the floorboards above. My kitchen. I backed toward the stairs, half expecting something to grab me from behind. Every board I stepped on groaned too loud, echoing like a gunshot. Upstairs, a cabinet slammed. Then another. Then the sound of every drawer in my kitchen being pulled out at once. I didn't go up. Not right away. I crouched on the bottom step and tried to breathe, but the air was thick with heat, and the smell of something burned. Then the knocking returned, only now it was closer. It was coming down the stairs above me, step, 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 each creak louder than the last. But nothing was there, not visibly. I bolted up the stairs past the landing and into the kitchen. Every drawer was indeed open, every cabinet hung wide. My utensils were scattered across the floor, as if someone had swept the entire counter clean in one motion. I tried the front door. It wouldn't budge. The deadbolt turned, but the knob stayed stuck, as if welded to the frame. That's when I saw it again, reflected in the oven glass. Behind me, standing at the edge of the hallway, was the figure from the chamber, bent, twisted, one arm longer than the other. Its head was tilted too far to the side, as if the neck had been broken and never reset. I spun around, but there was nothing there, just the hallway, dark and narrow and humming with pressure. The lights flickered. The bulbs in the living room buzzed and dimmed. A low hum started, deep and vibrating. The floor began to vibrate with it. I backed into the kitchen and grabbed the only weapon I could find, a heavy cast-iron pan, and held it in front of me. The humming stopped, and then every door in the house slammed at once. The sound was deafening. I dropped the pan. The windows rattled. The floor shifted beneath me, like something deep below was moving, displacing the foundation. And then, silence. No humming, no flickering, just cold, still air. Until I heard the sound of the cellar door creaking open. I don't know why I went back. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe something pulled me. I crept down the stairs again, heart in my throat, holding my breath with every step. The basement was pitch black, but I had a flashlight in the kitchen drawer, and I still had it in my hand. I flicked it on. The door behind the furnace was open again. Not fully, just a crack. But something was seeping from the gap. It wasn't fog. It wasn't smoke. It was black. A shadow, liquid in motion, pooling out into the floor like oil with shape. It stretched toward me, reached with long fingers that dragged and writhed like dying worms. I shut the door and threw my weight against it. The shadow stopped, held at the crack, pulsing. A single narrow beam of it slipped through and slithered up the wall, curling near the fuse box. Then the furnace roared back to life. It wasn't normal. It screamed, metal bending, pipes expanding violently. Heat blasted from every vent, thick and suffocating. The shadow recoiled, slithered back beneath the door like it was being burned. And then everything stopped. The furnace died. The lights flickered on. The door held shut. I didn't wait for more. I moved out the next morning. Told the realtor it was structural issues. Never told anyone what I saw. Not really. Some nights I still dream of that room, of the bones on the shelves, of that chair in the middle of the floor. Sometimes when my house creaks at night, or the power flickers for no reason, I wonder if something came with me. Something from behind that door. Something that isn't bound by locks or stone or fire. I don't go near basements anymore. I haven't in years. And I will never open another door that was meant to stay shut.